Hi guys, welcome back to another weekly vlog. As always, we've been keeping ourselves busy, laying the foundations for our log burning stove, putting up plasterboard and installing the lights, and as always, painting. So let's jump into this week's episode.
So now I'm going to start on making the hearth for the fireplace for the log burner and back boiler. So this isn't like the normal roofing sheets. This is from that wall there. I didn't record because my hands were up. It was difficult to get them down. But so it's a lot thicker than that roofing material that I've used for the roof. It's like, it probably weighs, if I had to guess, probably like two and a half times the weight per surface area that the other stuff does. So obviously better for radiating heat. So what we're going to do is cut down some copper pipe to use the spacers of about, it says 25 mil, but let's just add 5 mil, let's just do 30 mil spacers. And then basically we've got to look up the clearances for the log burner. And we've essentially got to put, just turn that whole space there into basically like a half for it. So looking at the regulations, basically you take the clearances specified or stipulated by the manufacturer that produces the log burner, and then using heat shields, it's common practice to basically halve the clearances if you use adequate spacing with heat shielding, which obviously I'm going to have to do. Might actually use Unistrut, thinking about it, because it's also metal. It might be a bit easier than trying to prop stuff up on copper spacers, like copper pipe spacers, and it'll give it be more versatile then, because I can go along the channel if I didn't need to make any adjustments or anything. Yeah, also importantly, you need to leave gaps at the bottom, so essentially you can get airflow behind what will kind of be the radiators around it, which is the heat shields, the iron. Yeah, just gonna give these a wash down then and start looking at the specification and fitting it. Probably give that one a miss, as it's already quite corroded. I'm not going to need all this sheeting, to be honest, but this is what we had, and it would have looked untidy to keep up just like a couple sheets there rather than get rid of the whole thing. I'm probably going to get rid of that whole wall there as well, to be honest. It's just in the way really to get round to the storage space where I'm keeping materials in that little side shed. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the back. This wall is 1.8 meters. The sheets that I've got are 1.5. Yeah, I'm going to have to start out with the base, because I want to see if I can make the base 300 mil, so I don't have to have an untidy sort of extra piece at the top, if that makes sense. Because 1.8, I've got a 1.5 meter sheet. If I put it at the bottom, there's going to be 300 mil at the top that needs an extra sheet putting onto it. It's just going to be fiddly and annoying. So if I can actually bring the bottom of the log burner up 300 mil, then it'll be perfect. I have no idea what I'm going to use for the bottom of it though, so I'm going to go and try and scavenge something that's like a heat sponge. Probably there's actually quite a lot of like natural stone out there. So if I can find something stable enough, then I'll use that if it's around 300 mil. Oh, and then for the back, so it needs to be 30 mil, well 25 mil spaced out heat shield. This is 41 mil deep strut, so put it up how I want it, get it all loosely fit, and then I'm going to take the panel back down and then just cut out the bit of strut that I'm not using. So then it'll just be like, like that as a spacer. I think. Found a few of these. I just looked behind some of the scrap wood, and there's tons of this. I actually had a much nicer one. One was more flat than this, but as I flipped it, it cracked because it landed on quite a sharp bit of rock. So what I might do now is just, I like that as just, that'll look really nice. It was much cleaner before I started tipping it all over all the goat shit. So once that's cleaned up, that's going to be a nice stone to actually have as it. So what I might do is, it's about 200 mil, so I need another 10 centimeters on bricks, like regular bricks, aren't they? About that. Yeah, I'm going to basically use that as like the plinth to put the log burner on and sort of space it underneath, and maybe put some. Yeah, we'll see. Right, what I've done is I've also just found out, looking at the specs, that it has to. So if you're the hearth, which is like the base of it, use a non-combustible material like cement or slate or like rock. I don't know specifically what type of rock this is. It has to be 250 mil. This isn't quite 250 mil. Alternately, you can have 125 mil or 150. Can't remember. I just looked it up. This is 200 anyway, so over that, and then as long as you put in a 50 mil air gap, like for ventilation. So I've also had to basically make a base for the hearth itself, so it's not touching the wood. Sorry, that's also because there's a combustible material underneath. Obviously, if it was straight onto the floor, if you have a concrete floor or something like that, then obviously it's not. You don't have to worry about any of this. But it's just because I've got my wooden floor, which is combustible material, obviously. So I've found bits of unistrut, which I've always kept for little things like this because they're very useful. I've taken 4 odd lengths and I've just put them together. This is the 41 mil. So basically doubled it up. So it's a little frame. It's loose at the moment because I'm still going to need to move it around and stuff. But now I need to fix this to the floor, which is going to provide me, it's going to provide me an 82 mil gap when I only need a 50 mil gap to put that on top of it. But I also hurt my back trying to get the second one in when I thought that I needed the second one to go side by side, which I don't. So I'm going to have to do this really slowly. Right, so now it does completely conform. All of its clearances. You can stand on it. Yeah, as long as you don't go on the edge. Yeah. Let's call it level. So instead of using pipe spacers, I'm going to do this. Can't see why it would be wrong. You attach that to the wall, and then you put a zebedee, like a channel nut, in there, and I can put so then the sheet metal goes here, the shield, and then I'll put a bolt through that, and it'll clamp onto this will be fixed to the wall. My hand's the wall, my arm is the sheet metal, bolt goes through it, clamps onto the channel nut behind it. I just think that it's more airy. Diagonally! Did you get it?
No.
It's Harry Potter.
Nice.
Everything takes a really long time at the moment because, one, I pulled my back when I was moving these two rocks. So I can sort of either lift things or extend to do things now after like a day of being in pain, but doing both at the same time. So basically, like, even if it's quite light, if I'm stood up and I bend over to pick something up, like picking up this just like rubbish off the floor, like really hurts. But then, yeah, so there's that. And then also the fact that I don't know where they came from. I don't know whether it's shards, like little bits of metal, but there's like the skin's grown over it. Like I can't get them out. It feels like there's splinters in the ends of like a couple of my fingers. Like there's little black dots, and like just occasionally, like the fine, it just feels a little bit sort of like sore. But then just occasionally, when I put a lot of like, it makes me like cringe. Put a lot of pressure on the end of my finger. I like it like sends like a pain all the way down, like really bad pain. When I like pick something up that's like quite hard, like picking up bits of metal like this is just like horrible because it's like I do that and then it's like every time you want to try and do one simple job that you've got other things for, it's like you've got to clear up everything else first. So everything takes much longer than you'd expect. A few of today's tasks. Number one, almost certainly won't end up doing it first because something else will distract me. But I'm going to be getting a heat shield above the log burner as well, and I'm going to have a twin-walled 130mm flue put in on top of it. So the log burner itself is about 800mm from the floor, so 8 centimeters up from that rock. It brings us to maybe like here-ish. Yeah, something like that. And then I'm getting a meter of flue. Yeah, so I need to take the plywood out of the combustible sort of zone here before I can plasterboard because I don't want like a fillet of plywood in there whilst the flue's going through it, because otherwise there's constantly going to be that plywood going to get potentially 260 degrees hot, which yeah, obviously not good. Yeah, so do that, put all the plasterboard up. I didn't record yesterday because I'm sure there are people that do sort of domestic electrics that you could watch that would be better at it and more helpful wiring up off-grid systems. What I've done though is basically I've taken 25mm tails that are going to go to my solar inverter, which is going to be here, So the 230 volts out to my domestic supply and regular unit here, which I can't open, which has a main 40 amp breaker, with an RCD trip on it, a B32 amp, so a 32 amp circuit breaker, like MCB for the ring for the sockets, and then a 6 amp for the lighting circuit, which is also I'm probably going to be putting a fan, like a vent fan, on that in the bathroom on the same circuit, and then a 10 amp breaker specifically just for a radial circuit in 2.5mm twin and earth. So the same sort of like dimensions, the same cabling as you put to a socket in a domestic dwelling to the instant water heater for the sink that's going to go in there on a 10 amp, because it's going to be just a 1 kilowatt instant water heater, so probably just going to trickle out. Not very well, but well. That's loaded yesterday. Like I said, I didn't bother recording it. Oh, I did the bonding as well. So I looked up, because it's a bit of a sort of a quirky sort of zone about like whether or not to bond the heat shielding, or whether or not that would just put undue sort of like heat onto the CPC. But it said basically because it's not like an extraneous, basically you don't have to bond heat shields. And it's actually advised that you don't bond them. You would actually, yeah. And but then I looked up, obviously, because we don't want to be living under a corrugated roof without that being bonded, because of, you know, any issues with that, because there's going to be solar on top of it. So I bonded the I bonded under here. This still needs some tidying up, obviously. Onto this metal sink, and then I've also bonded. I've taken some of this thick stuff that I found in the barn, and I've taken that out, and I've clamped together all of the corrugated metal sheets, and then I've checked for continuity between the main thing, sort of like that buzz bar that was in there just underneath the consumer unit, and I've checked for it for the furthest most sheet there, and I've sort of bolted together wherever there's a join in the sheets, and then you take like a long lead and then test that furthest sheet for continuity. Comes out here, goes up, tags on there, and then all the sheets are connected together. Because if voltage leaks onto the roof because of like the solar system that's going to be up there, obviously we want that to not keep the roof just permanently live until I find out one day whilst I'm on there or something. We want it to actually trip.
Hello, it's a sunny Sunday here, which is wonderful considering we've had what feels like non-stop torrential rain, thunderstorms and gale winds for like 2 weeks now. Happy Wales. Anyway, Heidi and I have just been moving a load of clutter from her room, and now we're going to paint it. We're going to make a watery, or rather we've been advised to do a watery coat first because we're putting it straight onto plaster, and the plaster absorbs a lot of the moisture, so we're going to do like a watery wash first with the paint that we're going to use, And then when that's dried, we'll try putting on a nicer second coat, and we'll see how that looks.
So now, because me and my mummy are painting my bedroom, now I'm going to paint it with my mum, and look what brush I'm using. And my mummy said that I could use the biggest brush. That is really fun to play with too. Oh, Mommy, look it! It looks a beautiful rainbow.
Nice. Beautiful. Right. Good girl. Good job. Don't worry about making it look neat because, well, I mean, you can if you want, but the whole point is it's going to look textured, so we're just slapping it on. Good girl. That's fun.
Yeah. Really, really fun.
Good. And that is it for this week's video, guys. Thank you as always for watching. If you enjoyed this week's video, then please don't forget to give it a like, and if you'd like to follow our self-build journey, then please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. As always, please let us know your thoughts below. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.